Apparently the family had a habit of naming their children after birds. The O of Jyaku-o meant nightingale and Jun meant falcon. Chu continued, also young Jyaku-jun wishes to apologize and is standing outside the medical office with his mother right now. What would you like to do? You could have led with that. Maomao looked at the quack doctor. Instead of actually saying yes, he smiled. He is still just a child after all. If he knows he did wrong and wants to apologize, then it's water under the bridge. Gee, nice guy. Maomao wasn't so sure, but the quack doctor was the victim here, so they would do as he said. Come in, Maomao said as she opened the office door, although she didn't look very happy about it. Jyaku-jun was standing there, not looking any more pleased than Maomao. A woman stood next to him with a timid look on her face. I can't apologize enough for what my son did, she said, bowing deeply. She pressed on the back of her brat's head, trying to make him bow too, but he said, Stop it. I'm not gonna say sorry, you apologize this instant. Nuh-uh, no way, Jyaku-jun whined. Now his mother was angry. She raised her hand high, and almost at the same moment they heard the slap. Jyaku-jun went crumpling to the ground. An open-handed slap wouldn't leave a lasting mark, but it sure sounded dramatic. Maomao doubted the boy was actually hurt, but he was still physically small enough that his body probably couldn't absorb the blow. I said apologize. His mother looked like she might burst into tears. Maybe the stress of child rearing was bubbling to the surface. Jyaku-jun sniffled and pinched his lips together, trying not to cry. I'm very sorry, he said, although he obviously didn't mean it. He showed every sign that he would do it again if he got the chance, but the quack doctor was watching his mother anxiously. That's enough, please, it's really fine. Please don't bow to me. Jyaku-jun's mother, however, only bowed again, insisting, I am so sorry. Jyaku-jun was already out of his bow and scowling at the quack. Signs of a lesson learned, zilch, Maomao observed. When mother and son had left, Maomao was hit by a wave of exhaustion. Do you think he's all right? That was quite a slap she gave him, the quack said, looking concerned about the child who had not shown repentance. Every parent gives their child a good whack now and then, buddy. Most men can remember doing sword drills until they went unconscious from shouting, said Lihaku. Exactly. It was nothing much. He is just lucky she did not use a closed fist, Chu added. An open palm isn't such a big deal, although it's trouble if there's an injury somewhere it can't be seen. The solar plexus is a good compromise, it hurts, but it doesn't show, offered Maomao. What kinds of homes were you three raised in? The quack asked, drawing back a little. He was a eunuch, but he originally came from a good family and had probably never suffered the punishment of the iron fist at the hands of his parents. Still, it wasn't that Maomao didn't understand the quack's concern. The boy's mother did seem sort of frantic. A person could get in a lot of trouble for harming the imperial younger brother's personal physician. As much trouble as one might get in, the mother seemed worried about something more. Shall Miss Chu explain that one? Chu said, striking a pose with her finger pointed toward the ceiling. Do you know? Was there a reason? The quack said, immediately curious. Lihaku looked like he wanted to know too. Maomao had to admit she was curious, but she affected disinterest, as if she would just listen in if everyone else wanted to know. Master Jyaku-o has passed away, and the western capital is all agog about who is going to be the next leader here. Every name you can think of has been suggested, from Master Jyaku's other sons to Mr. Rikusen from the royal capital, to even the Moon Prince himself. Yes, I've heard all that, Maomao said, mostly from a complaining Jinchi. The one person whose hat hasn't been thrown into the ring is the one person you would expect to be first in line. Did you know that? Lihaku said slowly. Normally, you would expect Master Jyaku-o's son to succeed him. That's how it works, even in the imperial family, right? He was right indeed, precisely. But that son has been kept completely out of politics throughout his life, on the grounds that he wouldn't need to be involved until later. He has been ruled out because of ignorance, or so the story goes. Doesn't that seem strange? Yes, it does. You would think he would have studied a little more, said the quack doctor. With what I've said so far, I would expect Miss Maomao at least to be able to see where this is going. In reality, Master Jyaku-o's eldest son is Dadadara, a lazy, profligate layabout. Chu waved her hands enthusiastically and produced a shower of confetti. He did get the education you'd expect of an intended successor, but then he threw it all away. Threw it all away, how? He had, let's call it, a late rebellious phase. By that time, though, he was already married to the woman his parents had chosen for him and even had a child. But he stole a horse and ran off. You'd think he was some little kid. Maomao thought about how uncomfortable the mother had seemed earlier. So his own relatives aren't treating him as the heir apparent, and folks are even suggesting people unrelated by blood to be the next leader. He must be pretty bad, Lahaku said, crossing his arms. Oh, very bad. This eldest son is 25 years old. He abandoned his home several years ago, leaving his wife and child. Well, let's just say he's been up to a lot. That might explain the mother's mean streak, Maomao admitted. No doubt her relatives blamed her for not keeping a close enough eye on her husband. Like what? Maomao asked. Master Jayukyuan's second to last son, his seventh son, is 25 too. The two of them don't get along. They fight all the time. Once there was a whole thing when they decided on a duel with real edged weapons. Both of them are so good that no one could stop them. Oh, it was terrible. Then he started brewing his own liquor, borrowing bottles from a nearby distillery. He filled them with his moonshine and sold them. That tanked the distillery's reputation. It's worth noting that the place was run by Jayukyuan's third daughter. Also, Miss Maomao, you remember how we were attacked by bandits when we went to that farming village? Apparently he was also connected with that incident. Maomao held up a hand for Chu to stop. What seems to be the matter, Miss Maomao? I'm amazed Master Jayukyuan didn't disown him. Being the eldest son probably helped protect him a little. And Master Jayukyuan has some odd preoccupations, so he never gave his second or third sons any education in politics at all. Anyway, the eldest son was a well-behaved and capable young man until he went off the deep end. So maybe Master Jayukyuan thought he would come back around eventually. The son is a powerful guy and a leader. I heard that when he was attacked by the boss of a bandit gang known all around Ise province, he went to get the guy back himself. Chu nibbled on a fried dough twist she'd gotten somewhere. She distributed them to the quack doctor and Lahaku as well, and they were also eating. Getting revenge on a bandit, huh? Very much the sort of hero image that Jayukyuan had so prized. As for Master Jayukyuan's younger brothers, they're all too busy with business to lead the western capital. But we absolutely cannot leave the job to his eldest son. Mr. Rikyusen and the Moon Prince were probably put forward to buy some time. Master Jayukyuan's second and third sons are both clever men. We can gain enough time for them to learn about politics. I think plans are being laid for the eldest son to be disinherited before then. With Master Jayukyuan gone, he has lost his protection. You sure know a lot, Miss Chu, the quack doctor said admiringly, although these seemed like things she probably wasn't supposed to know. These were Jayukyuan's children, so toughness and stubbornness were guaranteed. They were using the emperor's younger brother in order to buy themselves time. That does explain why that boy's mother looked so worried, Maomao said. Marrying a family's eldest son didn't mean much if that son got himself kicked out of the family line. And if her own son went on to injure the imperial younger brother's physician, well, that would be enough to make the blood run cold. In light of all that, it seems likely that the second or third son will be assigned to serve under the Moon Prince for a while. The other one will be assigned to Mr. Rikyusen. If one of them proves to be an especially quick study, that means we will be able to go back to the central region all the sooner. And speaking of going back, Miss Chu had better get back to work. She stood up as if to signal that the conversation was over. She was done with her snack anyway. Maomao raised her hand. Miss Chu, question. Yes, Miss Maomao, what is it? Maomao recalled that they were now stationed in the main house. Does this worthless layabout of a son ever come to the main house? Not very often, but I gather he stops by to see family every once in a while. It's certainly possible you might bump into him. Chu gave a broad wink. Please don't jinx it. Maomao foresaw many travels in her future. She did the best thing she could do. She shook her head and tried to forget about it. Chapter 2, The Greenhouse and the Chapel. When Maomao had tidied up her new room, she went to see the rumoured greenhouse. Oh my gosh! She exclaimed, her eyes shining, as she observed the facility. It was a building of brick and wood. Parts of the ceiling and walls were made of transparent glass so sunlight could get in. Inside they were growing exotic succulents and even cucumbers. Cucumbers are a vegetable you can pluck from the fields in summer, an easy way to get some water. But in the western capital they are treated as rare and valuable goods. It is difficult to grow cucumbers in the West, so they are considered a sign of wealth. For that reason, we often serve fresh cucumbers when we have visitors from farther west. They also happen to be a favourite of Master Jayukyuan. He likes to eat them sandwiched between pieces of thin sliced bread. This explanation was being offered by the gardener who ran the greenhouse. He had even kindly prepared some bread and butter for a taster and looked ready to whip up a little something for them to try right there. However, Miss Maomao, you're starting to dance. Yeah, miss, take it easy. There are people watching. Chu and Lehaku looked at her, vaguely concerned. Hey, I know that. Maomao said, even as she whipped a pair of scissors out from amidst the folds of her robes. Cucumbers, she sang out, cucumber leaves, cucumber steams. The moment she took one of the vegetables by the stem, however, the gardener had a hand firmly on her shoulder. Forgive me, but what, may I ask, do you think you're doing? A vein pulsed on his forehead. I just thought cucumber season is almost over. You won't need these much longer. It was only going to get colder. Maomao suspected that even with the greenhouse it would soon be impossible to grow cucumbers. They can still be harvested. The gardener's grip got firmer. The leaves and stems, to say nothing of the fruit itself, of course, are all potential medicinal ingredients. But they'll be useless if they wither first. If I don't take them now, when will I have the chance? Maomao said, meeting the gardener's gaze and refusing to back down. They found themselves locked in a staring contest. These are for food, the gardener said, his eyes bulging. The Western capital is facing an unprecedented crisis. Medicine is in desperately short supply. Don't you think you should help? By now they were using substitutes for many medicines. This was no time to be growing vegetables just to indulge someone's culinary inclinations. I'm given to understand that you've received permission to use the greenhouse. I have to wonder, however, if they also told you that you could just do whatever you wanted with the plants that are already here. These cucumbers are on their way out, and they'll have hardly any nutritional value anyway. Don't you think the obvious thing would be to use them as medicinal ingredients? Maomao and the gardener continued their standoff. After a brief stalemate, Chu arrived with the gardener's superior. The boss gave the gardener the rundown, but the man refused to capitulate. I don't think things here are quite what they told the Moon Prince, Chu observed. I think this boss is the kind who avoids telling his people any bad news in order to put on a good front for the dignitaries from out of town, replied the surprisingly perceptive Lehaku, capably reading the situation. He was exactly right, and the gardener was the unfortunate victim. Here was a man who had even had bread made so that they could try the products of his beloved greenhouse. Maomao had to admit she felt a little bad for him, but this wasn't what they had been told. Why does he think I came to the main house? In the end, it was decided that Maomao would use only 1/3 of the greenhouse. The soon-to-be out-of-season cucumbers would go to her, however. With many an aggrieved look at Maomao, the gardener, on the edge of tears, set about making an authorized personnel-only sign to keep her out of his succulents. What kind of medicine can you make with these? Lehaku asked as he helped Maomao gather the cucumbers and harvest their leaves and stems. They're very common in antipyretics. They're also effective against food poisoning and encourage urination. They can be used to induce vomiting as well. Wait, when would you need to induce vomiting? When you've taken more than the necessary amount of poison, for example. That's not a thing people normally do. Lehaku smiled genially even as he delivered the sharp quip. He wasn't quick to anger, which was one of his virtues. However, Maomao might have wished he had the quick wit that Lahan's brother possessed. She and the others collected the vegetables, the leaves, the stems, and even the vines. Then they pulled the cucumber plants up by the roots, leaving only empty earth behind. The gardener looked at Maomao as if she had killed his parents, but she paid him no mind. A duck arrived somewhere along the line. It was a perfectly ordinary duck, like you might see anywhere, and it started pecking at the insects that emerged from the freshly turned earth. What are you going to plant now that you've got a plot to work with? Lehaku asked. Good question. I was thinking maybe I'd start by planting every kind of seed I have on hand. I don't know what's going to grow in the greenhouse, so maybe I can start by seeing what takes. Every kind of seed. Is there space for that? Maomao paused. Maybe if we tear up that other cucumber plot too. It looked like sparks would fly once more between her and the gardener. Two people who refuse to give an inch are always far from the path of peace. Miss Maomao, what's the matter, Miss Chu? Chu seemed to have spotted something. She was pressed against the glass wall and peering outside. There's a chapel over there. Mind if I go take a look? A chapel. Chu pointed and Maomao saw a building in the distinctive Western style. There were plenty of similar ones dotting the Western capital. Most of them seemed to have religious functions. It's not quite like the one we were in before, though. There had been a chapel-like building on their visit last year, but this was different. Curious, Maomao followed Chu over. She'd heard that chapels were something like shrines. It certainly has the same somber atmosphere, she thought as they entered. It was a simple hexagonal space, a single room. Light poured through the windows. These windows were adorned with pictures made of coloured glass. The light dappled the otherwise plain floor with beautiful colors. It did indeed leave Maomao with an indescribable feeling of wonder. Chu seated herself in the very middle of the room and started mumbling something. Maomao sat beside her. She did not really know what was going on, but she stayed quiet until Chu was done talking. Lihaku waited outside. The chapel would be a little crowded with all three of them in there. Few after a moment, Chu looked up. This was a little bit odd coming from her. "Miss Chu, what were you doing there?" Maomao asked. "I was using an old language from another country to ask, oh Lord, do you see us?" "I don't get it. What's that mean?" "It's a line from the holy text of a foreign religion. You know there are lots of very pious believers in the Western capital. If you can work in a line of scripture here or there while you're chatting, it can do wonders for your business." Chu took some writing utensils from the folds of her robe and jotted something down. "Here, Miss Maomao, it looks like you're going to be living here for the foreseeable future, so you might as well learn it." On the paper she had written the words she had been speaking, spelled out phonetically so that Maomao could read them. "I really don't think I need to." Maomao couldn't have cared less about this subject and had no interest in learning these words. No, I think you should." Chu didn't back down. She gripped Maomao's shoulders and looked her squarely in the eye. She wasn't leaving the apothecary with much choice. "Here we go, 1, 2, oh Lord, are you there, Lord? Oh lard, are you thorough, lard? You sound like a babbling baby." Maomao thought she had said the words just the way Chu had written them, but apparently something was wrong with her pronunciation. "Let's try again. Let's not and say we did. Come on, this is the perfect opportunity." Chu was proving unusually stubborn. When they had repeated the phrase several times and Maomao's diction had begun to improve, Chu finally let her go. While she was at it, she taught Maomao the proper gesture of prayer, although Maomao doubted how much good it would do her. As they came out of the chapel, they caught Lihaku yawning. He was probably bored. "I'm going to give you a pop quiz on this the next time we come by," Chu warned Maomao. "Yeah, okay," Maomao said. As far as she was concerned, there wasn't going to be a next time. "Let's go back for now and get some food, Miss Chu." She was confident the subject of food would divert the ever-famished attendant. Chu liked to take her meals with Maomao in order to avoid her mother-in-law, and Maomao anticipated prompt agreement. "Good idea. Mr. Quack must be starving too. By the way, how is he attending to his bathroom needs?" Chu showed no shame in the question. "I take him to the toilet whenever I'm there," said Lihaku, who could carry the Quack around in his arms. "He should be fine. I left him with a bedpan. It is for female use, so I think it should work for him," Maomao replied, as unconcerned as Chu. The Quack was a eunuch, so he lacked the distinguishing feature of most men. "Gee, I suddenly feel bad for the old guy." "Let's get back, huh?" Lihaku said, picking up his pace. He really did look unusually concerned. Chapter 3 Jayaku O's children. When Maomao and the others got back to the medical office, they heard voices talking inside. "Is there a patient here?" Maomao wondered. If the Quack doctor was examining someone, then she'd better get in there and trade off with him quick. She opened the door. "Hello, we're back," she said. "Oh, hello, young lady, welcome back, everyone." The doctor was chatting with a young man Maomao didn't recognize. Who is this? He was probably younger than Maomao, a smallish man with kind eyes. His face was attractive enough, but perhaps didn't look like much in the Western capital, where there were brawny men to spare. "Is this a patient?" Maomao asked. "Oh no. He is a visitor. He came to say a polite hello," the Quack answered, resting his injured leg on a chair. "You must pardon the intrusion," the small-built young man said, giving her a carefree smile. "And you must also pardon me for failing to introduce myself sooner. My name is Yu Hulan, and I will be serving the Moon Prince." "Oh, I see, I'm Maomao." She met his polite bow with a deep bow of her own. Yu Ha, that was a name she seemed to be hearing a lot lately. "This young man is supposed to serve the Moon Prince," the Quack offered. "He is Master Jayaku O's son. Indeed, I am still quite young, so please be indulgent with me." Jayaku O's son? Maomao tilted her head, perplexed. He seemed like the polar opposite of his father. Where was the resemblance? Chu spared the boy only a brief dip of her head. Maybe she knew him already. "Master Jayaku O's honored son, you say?" she said. "Yes, ma'am, his third and youngest." "I never dreamed I would have the honor of serving the Moon Prince." Hulan was beaming. Maomao had heard that Jinchi and Rikyusen would each have one of Jayaku O's sons assigned to help them. One would get the second son, and the other the third. This young man, however, was not quite what she'd been expecting. She was a little taken aback. She just figured he would be more full of himself. This was the son of the man who had attempted to use Jinchi like a pawn. At a glance, he looked perfectly humble. He was sipping tea with the Quack doctor, a eunuch, and didn't hesitate to act polite to Maomao. He was nothing like she would have imagined. Certainly not the raging tempest of a man that might have been suggested by the name Hyolan, which meant tiger and wolf. My next eldest brother is serving Master Rikusen. I do hope you'll look kindly upon each of us. If the second son had been assigned to Rikusen, and the third to Jinchi, perhaps it was in deference to their respective ages. She wouldn't be surprised if the second son is older than Jinchi.